Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the cost of gas and electricity is to go up by around 10% from October. There are warnings that the price hike could see up to 300,000 pensioners here facing fuel poverty this winter.
Well, at the moment we're trying to put £5 or £6 away each, or maybe a tenner when we've got our pensions in, to keep building it up. At the moment we've got about £39. That's not a lot.
Also in tonight's programme, Edinburgh becomes the first council to ban fireworks in certain parts of the city. The fugitive Nicholas Rossi, who was extradited from here in January, appears in court in America. He's told a rape case against him will proceed.
Coming up in the sport, Rangers manager Philippe Clement says there's a possibility the club could play their final home game at Hampden this weekend, which would see his side return to Ibrox a week earlier than planned.
And the island of Rum is recognised as having one of the best night skies in the world. Hello, I'm Sally Magnuson. Welcome to Friday's programme. Heading into the winter months, it's not the news anyone wants to hear. Gas and electricity bills are going up. From October, a typical household's annual energy bill will rise by around 10% under the new price cap, which is set by the energy regulator Ofgem. That equates to around an extra £149 a year for millions across the UK. Here in Scotland, charities are warning that this, coupled with changes to benefits, could see almost 300,000 pensioners plunged into fuel poverty this winter. Our reporter Hope Webb has the story.
Watch it, these are dodgy.
At home in Selkirk, Elise cares for her husband Jim, who's awaiting a Parkinson's diagnosis. They live in a small house alongside their beloved dog Charlotte and previously benefited from universal winter fuel payments, but won't anymore.
I'm concerned because of having the prepaid meter, and the winter time it's roughly about £10 a night. At the moment it's £2 something because you've got no heating on. That concerns me. If I don't put the heating on and the pipes burst, insurance people are going to say, why didn't you put the heating on? So it's a vicious circle.
Elise and Jim don't now meet the threshold for winter fuel support. Earlier this month, both the UK and Scottish governments decided their winter fuel payment schemes will now be means tested. And Elise has already had to make changes to cut down her bills.
Well, at the moment we're trying to put £5 or £6 away each, or maybe a tenner when we've got our pensions in, to keep building it up. At the moment we've got about £39. That's not a lot.
Ofgem imposes a price cap on the amount suppliers can charge households for each unit of energy. Since July, it's sat at £1,568 per year for a typical household using electricity and gas and paying by direct debit. But it'll now rise again to £1,717.
So if you took the fuel poverty figures on their own, that's about 400,000 pensioners who are affected. Now, the winter fuel payment will mean that about 125,000 pensioners in pension credit will continue to receive that. So if you take those two figures away, you're left with almost 300,000 pensioners in Scotland who live in fuel poverty but will no longer have that financial support that's been so vital to them.
Forecasters are now predicting a small rise in the cost of energy bills in January.
On a longer term basis, we are expecting that prices will ease off a little bit, but not materially, and they will continue to remain above the levels that households became accustomed to in the latter part of the last decade.
The UK government said the expected rise in the price cap is a direct result of the failed energy policy they inherited. Meanwhile, the Scottish government said it was left with no choice but to replicate the UK government's decision after being left with a £160 million funding gap. With government support being wound back, many more will now have to add up the cost of heating their homes. Hope Webb, reporting Scotland.
Our business correspondent David Henderson is here. David, energy prices still very erratic.
Yeah, they're pretty volatile, have been for a while. They're lower now than they were when they spiked, 18 months ago. But for a typical household, annual bills are still something like £500 higher per year now compared to before Russia invaded Ukraine 2.5 years ago. And lots of us may notice prices rising over the course of this autumn, simply because there's less government support available to help. So the cost of living payment, which was provided to people on benefits, that was ended in February. And last month, the UK and Scottish governments both cut winter fuel payments for most pensioners. That support is now only there for low-income households.
And it seems, the fact is, a lot of pensioners do qualify for extra help, but they're not claiming it.
Yes, if you qualify for what's called pension credit, then you are entitled to claim for a winter fuel payment. But the charity Age Scotland says something like 65,000 Scots who are eligible are not claiming it, perhaps because they don't know it's available. So there's quite a strong government push to try and get as many people as possible to sign up to this scheme. And on the story on the BBC News website today, it's possible to click through to see if you are in fact eligible. That said, as prices rise, there may be more people who do feel the impact who are not entitled to a pension credit, and charities warn that that could leave people facing a very difficult choice this winter between eating and heating their homes.
David, thank you for explaining that. Now, Edinburgh is the first area in Scotland to ban fireworks in parts of the city around Bonfire Night. It comes after disorder in the Niddrie area on November the 5th last year, which saw police and other emergency service workers injured by gangs targeting them with fireworks. Richard Forbes reports.
A nightmare for residents in Niddrie. Last year, youths took to the streets to bombard the emergency services with fireworks on the 5th of November. It's scenes like these that sparked calls for councils to be given new powers to stop it happening again. This resident was caught up in the chaos and isn't reassured by today's decision.
It was horrendous. I've got a little cat, she's 15, she's absolutely petrified of noise. This year I'm actually going to stay in a hotel for the night because I just don't want to stay here.
The fire service says these changes aren't going to make their bonfire night any quieter. They highlight that the troublemakers don't follow the existing rules, so are unlikely to follow the new ones. Also, the controlled zone is confined to a few streets, so there's concern that the problem will just move to neighbouring areas. Niddrie is one of the 4 communities that applied for a firework control zone to be introduced. The others are Balerno, Calton Hill and Seafield, where the Edinburgh Dog and Cat Home is based. The charity is one of several animal welfare groups who highlighted the distress that random fireworks can cause during bonfire season.
On our local streets that you'll find people setting off fireworks. There's a safety well-being issue as well, how safe people feel walking out on their streets, taking their dog for a walk, how safe they feel in their own homes, watching their animals terrified for not just one night, but actually weeks.
The council's vote was not unanimous, with opposition councillors saying that singling out these 4 zones could cause confusion and stigma. Instead, they pushed for a citywide ban. However, the committee's convener says trouble out with these 4 areas won't be ignored.
The police do have additional powers beyond what we're introducing with the zones. They have dispersal powers and antisocial behaviour. So they will pick up on any moves out with these particular areas.
The powers to introduce these zones have only recently been granted to local authorities by the Scottish Government. Glasgow and Dundee City Councils have also held consultations but are yet to make a decision. The effectiveness of the Edinburgh zones will be discussed in the new year, and a fresh consultation launched to see if any or all parts of the city want to be included in a future ban. Richard Forbes, reporting Scotland.
A man extradited from Scotland to the United States after attempting to fake his death has appeared in a Utah courtroom, still claiming to be the victim of mistaken identity. Nicholas Rossi asked the judge to refer to him as Arthur Knight. He was told that one of 2 rape cases he's facing will proceed to the next stage of the legal process. Stephen Godden reports.
For more than 2 years, Nicholas Rossi fought extradition from Scotland to the United States. He said he was the victim of mistaken identity, a claim unpicked in a Scottish courtroom. Since being flown back to Utah in January, Rossi has been in custody, facing 2 separate rape allegations.
All rise. Third District Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Barry Moore is now presiding.
While his appearance had altered, his latest court hearing showed much remained the same, including his insistence on being addressed as Mr. Knight.
Mr. Knight's here. Good afternoon, Mr. Knight.
The bizarre nature of a story that included claims Rossi faked his own death to evade the US authorities generated international media attention, something the lead detective in the case was asked about in court.
MS reached out and had indicated that she had had a relationship with the individual on the news media named Nicholas Rossi or Nicholas Aliverian. She knew him as Nicholas Rossi.
Okay. What's the general category of the crime that she alleged Nicholas Rossi had committed?
It would be sexual assault.
To make it to trial, prosecutors must convince the judge there's probable cause to believe the alleged crime was committed by the suspect in court.
Your Honor, just before we go further, defense stipulates to identity. So,
I'm sorry?
defense stipulates to identity.
Just to be clear, the defense is stipulating that the person identified by the victim, just for purposes of this hearing, is the defendant.
Defense stipulates to identity. Yes.
The judge's ruling followed soon afterwards.
Applying that standard here, I find and conclude that the state has met its burden and has presented evidence sufficient to establish probable cause to believe that the crime charged in the information was committed and that was committed by this defendant. Accordingly, this matter is bound over.
The decision sets up an arraignment hearing next month.
So, Mr. Rossi? Still Mr. Knight?
To be called Mr. Knight.
Okay, Mr. Knight. So I will see you on Thursday, October 17th.
3 years and counting, this transatlantic saga continues. Stephen Godden reporting Scotland.
There are developments today on 2 ongoing public sector disputes, one in colleges and one in the NHS. Our news correspondent Jamie McIver is with us to tell us more. Jamie, colleges first, talk us through what's happened there.
Yes, it looks like the long-running strike by college lecturers may be coming towards its end. A new pay offer has been made today, and the EIS Further Education Lecturers Association is urging its members to accept it. So in the meantime, college strikes are off. Now, the offer's in 2 parts. First of all, £5,000 covering the pay rises lecturers should have got going back to 2022. Then next year, a rise of 4.14%, which is an improvement on the 3% which was previously on offer. Now, all this has been made possible by an extra £4.5 million from the Scottish Government. Here's Andrea Bradley from the EIS.
The EIS Villa Executive has decided to recommend to members an improved offer that has been possible because of Scottish Government involvement. It's regrettable, however, that our members were forced to take this action just to be, in the position of receiving a fair pay offer in the first place. And it really is regrettable that it has taken this long for an improved offer to come forth.
And with the NHS too, Jamie, a possible deal there?
Yes, NHS staff are being offered 5.5%. Unison, which is the biggest union in the NHS, and Unite are both recommending acceptance and consulting their members. The Royal College of Nursing is consulting with its members too. But remember, there are other public sector pay disputes going on as well, Sally. It's by no means certain that all the council unions will end up accepting the improved offer made recently to see off the threat of the bin strikes. Teachers' unions are also waiting for an improved pay offer. In fact, if they don't get one by a week on Monday, then they'll consider themselves to be in dispute with employers. And remember too that the Scottish Government has been warning of some tough spending choices. So inevitably, every time they put more money aside for public sector pay, it means there's less for something else.
OK, Jamie, thank you very much indeed. Some of the day's other stories now. The families of 2 children who were injured in a roller coaster incident at a Highland theme park are seeking compensation. The 12-year-old girls were hurt at Landmark Forest Adventure Park in Carbridge near Aviemore in 2021. The park's owners said they regretted the incident. It's emerged that a doctor who was facing child abuse images charges in England carried out unsupervised consultations with under-18s while working at Belford Hospital in Fort William. Dr. Kerry Girling, who has since been convicted of the offences in England, was struck off the medical register today. A tribunal found he had broken a professional order in 2022. Wreaths have been laid in Edinburgh to remember those killed in Ukraine since the Russian invasion. A service was held at the city chambers this morning ahead of Ukrainian Independence Day this weekend. The First Minister joined councillors and members of the Ukrainian community in Scotland for the service. Well, he's a world-renowned, Oscar-winning director, famed for being somewhat fond of the supernatural. And now he's getting a bit spooked in a Scottish hotel. Yes, Guillermo del Toro is best known for the dark fantasy films Pan's Labyrinth and The Shape of Water. He's currently in Aberdeenshire, filming a big-screen adaptation of Frankenstein. And he's been charting his experience of staying in what he describes as the most haunted room in a hotel built in the 1800s in Aberdeen. He says he opted for the room after a producer was scared into leaving it after experiencing odd electrical and physical occurrences. Since then, he says he's experienced an oppressive atmosphere in the room and also checked for eerie sounds on his phone. Has to be said, though, that in his latest dispatch from room number 4, Del Toro says no sights or sounds happened, just an oppressive vibe, before adding, "I shall return." Well, we've been hearing from a paranormal investigator, Liam Shand, about what, short of a finely honed instinct for publicity, might be behind the Hollywood director's unnerving experiences.
He has a reputation for staying in haunted hotels. So he's very, very much into the paranormal, and he seems very excited by it. Well, we don't know the exact location that he's staying at, but there's a lot of stories about former disgruntled residents of some of these buildings. Some of these buildings are very old in Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire. Some of them are former castles, mansions that have been turned into hotels. So it could be just a disgruntled spirit that is making their presence known.
Ooh, disgruntled spirit.
Interesting stuff.
Lewis, what you got for us?
I've got plenty of interesting stuff for you as well, Sally. After a busy week of European football, it's all back to league action. Thanks very much. Yes, hello there. Well, Rangers manager Philippe Clement is hopeful that Ross County's visit to Hampden Park this weekend could be Rangers' last use of the National Stadium before heading back to a renovated Ibrox. The Glasgow club had targeted their home game against Hibernian on 28th of September as aspirational for a return, but Clement says there is a possibility they could be back at Ibrox for their Premier Sports Cup quarter-final against Dundee a week earlier.
All the club has been pushing to make this transformation period as short as possible, that we could go back to Ibrox as fast as possible. Nothing can be confirmed until it's sure, but people are working really hard to make it as fast as possible. So there's a possibility in that way, but not certainty.
Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers says it's a big 7 days remaining in the transfer window and that he's not spoken to Kyogo Furuhashi about reports linking him with Manchester City, but says he's not surprised to see that the striker is attracting attention. The Japanese forward, who's set to return from a shoulder problem for Sunday's game against St Mirren, is reportedly on a shortlist of potential targets for the English champions, although Rodgers says there has been no contact. The manager also said there has been nothing new with regards to Matt O'Reilly, who's been the subject of interest from Brighton and Atalanta. Hearts boss Stephen Naismith says his side need to perform like they did in last night's narrow European defeat to Victoria Pilsen if they hope to get anything against Motherwell in the league this weekend. The Jambos were seconds away from a goalless draw away from home in their Europa League playoff first leg. Despite being a goal down at the halfway stage of the clash, Naismith is positive that qualification is there for the taking next week.
We caused them problems in possession. Defensively, we were decent. But ultimately, we obviously lose the late goal. But I think the tie's really tight. It'll be a tight game next week. We're at home. We've got to use that home advantage. As I said, the schedule we've got, we need to expect that and accept it and embrace it. It'll be a tough game. Motherwell is always a tough game, but I think tonight's performance was more of the Rangers' performance than the Falkirk one, the Dundee one. So we need that on Sunday for sure.
Come on it, boss. Derek McInnes says his full focus is on the club's European campaign as they prepare to return to league action with a trip to Aberdeen this weekend. The Ayrshire club suffered a late 2-0 defeat to Copenhagen in the Danish capital last night and now face a quick turnaround as they prepare for Sunday's match.
It's really nice to the league to maybe even think about us being still in Europe and giving us Aberdeen away. It's quicker to get to Denmark than it is to Aberdeen, a 4-hour journey. But for us, we've got to prioritise Europe, and we can make things up. It's not to say we're going up there to lose a game of football. We're going up there to try and be good enough in the game to try and win a game. But again, I think while the game's still in the balance on next Thursday, we want to try and give it a special night at Rugby Park. And I think if we can get the first goal, it could turn out to be that way.
And just before I go, tennis legend Andy Murray has been honoured with a new 20-foot mural in his hometown of Dunblane. The stunning artwork celebrating the Scots' incredible career was unveiled at Dunblane Sports Club, where the three-time Grand Slam champion first learned to play tennis. It even came as a surprise to the man himself, with Andy taking to social media platform X to thank the artist behind it and joking that locals might object to having to look at his ugly mug on this side of the building.
It is quite large.
It's quite large. And if he thinks it's an ugly mug, he could say what he thinks, but it's a winning mug, Sally. That's all that matters.
Well, listen, here is another spectacular sight for you. A Scottish island has been officially recognised as having one of the best night skies in the world. The island of Rum, south of Skye, home to just 40 people, has been named Scotland's first international dark sky sanctuary by the organisation Dark Sky International. John Peters reports.
Nestled in the small isles off the west coast of Scotland sits a land of spectacular beauty. But it's not just the delights on the ground which are bringing visitors to Rum.
It can be breathtaking, absolutely stunning. There's just so many stars. The Milky Way is really prominent. When there's meteor showers, we see a lot of meteors and shooting stars. It takes your breath away.
This unique sky, free from the light pollution of mainland towns and cities, is why Rum sits among just over 20 places in the world to be given dark sky sanctuary status.
Most of Rum is designated National Nature Reserve, so wildlife and habitats are protected, and this makes it a special place for nature and people. And dark skies are important for all wildlife in terms of maintaining their natural biological clocks and preventing expenditure of unnecessary energy.
Plans are in place to build a tower and telescopes for viewing the spectacular night sky from the island. It's hoped the new status will protect the many wild animals who rely on Rum's unique and very dark skies. John Peters, reporting Scotland.
And you can see more of that story and those stunning pictures on the 7 on the BBC Scotland channel shortly. And I'm joined now by the man who can tell us whether there'll be anything to see at all over Rum or anywhere else tonight.
There'll be some clear skies in between the showers, Sally. It's a familiar story, isn't it? Much like today's weather. Some rainbows as a result. Lovely picture there from one of our weather watchers in the Western Isles. But showers is the watchword for tomorrow as well. Thank you very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yeah, we had some lovely spells of sunshine around today, didn't we, after all that rain last night? But the showers were really never far away, some of them quite heavy. Neatly captured by our weather watchers, though. Thanks for sending in those pictures. And the showers continue into this evening and indeed overnight on brisk southwesterly winds. Some of those showers quite heavy. Temperatures not falling too far. In towns and cities, 9 or 10 Celsius. A few sheltered parts of Grampian down to a cool 6 or 7. To the weekend, it's a tale of two halves. Low pressure is nearby, but on Saturday, bright spells and showers. And then Sunday, more persistent rain on the way. Let's take a look at Saturday first. Initially cloudy with some showers, fairly frequent, but then late morning, early afternoon, something a little bit drier and brighter before more cloud and showers work their way in from the west into the middle part of the day. So mid-afternoon, it's an east-west split. In the west, cloudy with fairly frequent showers. In the east, longer gaps between the showers, more in the way of sunshine. But with a breeze that's quite brisk under the cloud and catching a shower, it will feel cool. 13 to 17 Celsius, about the best we'll see. So for those hill walking or climbing, certainly across western ranges, the showers will be fairly frequent. Temperatures on the summit 7-8 Celsius, and the wind's only really ramping up by the very end of the afternoon. A similar picture across eastern ranges, largely sunny spells on the icons there, but always cater for a shower rattling through at times. And those showers still with us as we head into Saturday evening and Saturday night. Not until the very end of the night that something a little bit drier arrives, and that means for early risers on Sunday there will be some sunshine, but it's short-lived. So the second half of the weekend, a little bit different. It's cloudy with more persistent rain, heavy at times, certainly across southern Scotland. The driest weather in the far north, mid-teen temperatures. August has been disappointing, hasn't it? Let's take a look at some of the numbers. There's a lot to look at here, but actually just cast your eye to the right-hand column there. That's the amount of rain we've seen compared with the August average. In some spots, about double what we would normally get, and there's still a week of August to go. Will next week be any better? Well, Monday starts off largely dry, but low pressure is nearby. So once again, unsettled with rain at times. This is the outlook. It's a mixed picture, but note the temperature's just beginning to climb. So if you get some sunshine in 20 degrees, 21 degrees, not bad, but the showers never far away. That's the forecast for now.
Thanks very much, Chris. And McAlpine will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone in the team, do enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.